Hi all. Today I am going to teach about the General Information Technology, that means JIT, for grade 12 students. So this is the English medium teacher's guide. So we'll go on to the lesson. So the first we'll see the contents of General Information Technology. So there are 8 lessons. So for the first term, grade 12 first term, 1.1 and 1.2, and then 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and then 3.1, 3.2, and then 4.1. So these are the lessons that can be taught in competency 11. So we'll go on to the contents. You can see the next lessons in the second term and then the third term. So the competency 1.1 describes about the computer as a system using a block diagram. We'll see about it. So system concept. First of all, we are going to study about the system concept. That means defining a system, and then introduction to computer, and then components of a computer, and then hardware. I mean input devices or output devices, and then the memory devices, so storage devices, optical, magnetic, semiconductor, processor, software, system software, utilities, application software, and everything. And then we are going to study about the block diagram of a computer. So it concludes input, processing unit, I mean ALU and CU, and then output, and then memory, and then or storage or flow of data and control instruction among components. So the next one is data and information, attributes of quality information. So this is the content of unit 1. So it contains defining a system, and then identifying a computer as a system, and then recognizing the computer as a component of a system, and then listing and describing the hardware components, I mean the input and output devices, and then distinguishing peripherals as input device, and input or output device, and then listing and briefly describing the types of software, and then drawing the block diagram of a computer, and then naming its components. So briefly explain about the component of a computer, and then distinguishing the data and information with examples. And then we should name and briefly describe about the attributes of quality informant. So this can be concluded in competency 1.1. So we'll go on to the lesson, competency 1. So competency 1 explores the computer and its potential to reap timely benefits. So it explores the computer and then its potential to reap timely benefits. What can we get from this computer? The benefits. So defining its system and all. So first one describes the computer system using a block diagram. We'll see what is that block diagram. So the learning outcomes is defining a system, and then I said this, and then contents. So these are the contents and the concepts and terms to be highlighted for the guidance, and then quality, and then guidance for assessment and evaluation. So they are saying given assignment to classify the components of a computer. So you should classify the components of a computer, and then ask students to draw and name a block diagram of von Neumann architecture. Provide students with scenarios. So wait, we need to. So they are saying I should give you an assignment to classify the components of a computer, and then I should ask the students to draw a block diagram of von Neumann architecture, and then I should provide students with scenarios that let them find data and information related to it and ask them to justify the answers, and then I should provide at least 5 attributes of quality information and ask students to give appropriate examples to them. So we'll go on to the lesson. The next one is also competency 11 1.2. So they had given, so this is the one which we want to study. So what is a system? What do you mean by a system? If you had studied in a grade 10 or 11 in the information and communication technology, if you had selected that, then you should be known about the system. What is system? So we'll study. So submitting a data, okay, that we call it as input and then output, right? So submitting data for processing is called input. We are submitting something to process, so that we call it as input, and getting the result, that we call it as after processing getting the result, that we call it as output. So we can call the collection of all these components above a system. So collection of this input and output and then processing components is we called as system. So a system is to receive data, process and store them and provide the results when required. So what is a system? Can you define me? So what is a system? So you can mention the question. The first question is, what is a system? So now I am going to define the system. A system is a combination of components. I had explained to you about the components. That is a system which concludes the combination of components that work together to fulfill a task. Now you can take as an example. There are some people who get together to work. Okay, they get together to work, or there is a group of students. After their A level examination, they are going to do a get together to fulfill a task. What is that task? To meet their friends and get a happy moment. So this is the system. So system is the combination of components that work together, okay, to fulfill a task. Combination of components that work. So I will write it. A system is a combination of components to work that work together to fulfill a task is system. Okay, so a system is a combination of components that work together to fulfill a task. And then identifies computer as a system. IPO. What do you mean by IPO? Input, process, output. So this is the one for IPO. So what is that? How do we identify the computer as a system? By requiring input, output and the process. So a computer processes the data. A computer processes the data that we input. We give something, according to that it can be processed according to commands and providers with the required information in the desired form. Therefore we call computer a system. So when we put the data, it will be processed. After that, it will be after processing, the output data which gives to us the result will be taken as the system. Okay. So submitting data and then process and storage of data and then giving out the required information. So system concept, I said that. And then introduction to computer. So introduction to computer is a computer processes the data. A computer processes the data that we input and then according to the commands and provide us with the required information in the desired form. Therefore, we call the computer as a system. So the second question is, identify the computer as a system. Okay. So the next one is components of a computer. Now we are going to study about the components of a computer. So I can give you some example for the input IPO. Okay. That means input, process and then output. So we use many systems in our day-to-day activities. So we can consider some of the examples. Now I can give some example from the grade 10 book. Example 1, ATM. We do that in our day-to-day life. That's a system which can be done in our day-to-day life. So ATM. What is the full form of ATM? What is the full form of ATM? Question number 3. What is the? You can write it with me itself. Full form of ATM. So if you want, you can comment the answers in the comment box. So I asked the first question is, what is a system? A system is a combination of components that work together to fulfill a task. Second one, identify the computer as system. To identify the computer as system, when we give the data or an information to the computer, when we provide, after it can be processed using our data, and then after processing we will get the output. So using that only we can identify the computer as a system as IPO method. And then what is the full form of ATM? So ATM, automatic teller machine. Automatically it will tell to us, that's it, teller machine, automatic teller machine. So when the bank ATM card is inserted to ATM machine, when we insert our ATM card to the ATM machine, data will be processed. So when we provide our input, then the processing method will be done. Data is processed, and then information regarding the account is given. So regarding to the account, when we provide the account number and everything, it will give us the thing. So first of all, ATM card. You can draw this format. ATM card, ATM machine, and then name, account number, balance, withdrawal of cash. ATM card is data or input. ATM machine is processing. Name, account number, balance, withdrawal of cash is information output. So this can be taken. This is the example which has been given in the grade 10 first lesson. Okay. So the example 2 is fingerprint reader to record the attendance of organization. In foreign countries and all, they used to, now in our school and all, they used to, in foreign countries, in the working places or everywhere, they used to keep fingerprint reader to record the attendance. In our school, there is a record book, register book. So first of all, we should go to the machine, and then we should, if we are present, we should give our fingerprint. We should keep our hand by giving our fingerprint. And then that is data, fingerprint. Providing our fingerprint is input data. And then machine will be processed. Processing is process. And then the result is time of arrival, time of departure, that we can take as information output, decision making. So this is the output. So what will it provide? The time of arrival. When we get late, it will be recorded in the attendance, I mean the fingerprint reader. And then if we didn't come, it will be recorded. So this is an example. And then I can give another example also, QR code, which can be used in our day-to-day life. So QR code is used in newspapers as well as in magazines also nowadays, even to pay money. Okay, so directing to QR code, we should direct to the QR code and then taking a photo and then decoding and then connecting to website. This is also an input output method. Okay, so when we direct to QR code and take a photo, that can be taken as input. When it's decode, process. When it's decode, that we call it as process. After connecting to website, it can be taken as the result, I mean output. So after scanning the QR code by a smartphone and connecting to the internet, further information can be obtained from the website of the relevant items. So that nowadays, when we take a GB card, when we take a card, they had given a QR code. When we scratch it and when we show the QR code to our camera, it will show out show out a link. So we can touch it and we can reload our phone through that. So this is related to those relevant items only. So the example 4 is processing business information. So a computer or computerized equipment is used to process the data, and we make decisions based on the information we get as output. So business information means now we are going to put out the purchase. Now we are going to buy a product. The purchase money, and then sales, and then year, and then income, and then 2013-14 profit 2000, and then 50,000, and then number, and then expenses, and then loss. And then that can be taken as data. So it will process and then get information, and then we can make the decision making. So these are the examples which can be used in our day-to-day life. Now we are going to study about the components of a computer. So defines a system. identifies computer as a system concept, introduction to computer. These are okay. Done. Those are done. Next one is components of a computer. I said that components of a computer can be divided into two, hardware and then software. Can you define what are software and what are hardware? Difference between hardware and software.